Hey, my name is Stephanie Hine. I'm glad that you joined my channel today. I am a holistic health coach, and I am also the herbalist behind Wise Earth Botanicals. Today, we're going to talk about one of my favorite subjects, herbal support for parasites. So the word parasite comes from the Greek word parasitos, and that translates to unwanted or uninvited guest at one's dinner table. So you can imagine, parasites, when we have infections of parasites, they are the first to eat. So many people experience malabsorption issues. Okay. There are a few parasites that I want to talk about that are used beneficially in the holistic world. So cordyceps mushrooms, these are amazing mushrooms. They do have a parasitic relationship with their host. But cordyceps mushrooms are great for enhancing ATP, sexual function, lung capacity, just a wonderful mushroom. We also have an herb known as mistletoe. Now, mistletoe does have a parasitic relationship with its host, generally an oak tree. However, mistletoe is worked with a lot in cancer protocols. So I just want to leave it at that. There are a few beneficial parasites used in the natural health world. And so what is a parasite? So we understand that the Greek term for parasitos is an uninvited guest at one's dinner table. Now, Webster Dictionary tells us that a parasite is an organism that lives in or on its host and relies on that host for all of its nutrients. Okay, so we have three different classes of parasites, human type parasites. So parasites that feed on humans or can feed on humans. So we have protozoa. We have our protozoas, which are single-celled organisms. So these are like amoebas, giardia, very tiny, can't see them with the naked eye. So we have our protozoa, single-celled. We have helminths. These are literally worms, so tapeworm, roundworm, pinworms, okay? They would fall in the helminths. So they're made up more than one single-celled organism. Helminths you can generally see with the naked eye. And then we have our ectoparasites. Oops. So ectoparasite, okay? Ectoparasites live on the skin. So these are ticks, mosquitoes, lice, things like that, scabies. Okay, those are ectoparasites and they live on the skin. Okay, so those are our three classification of human type parasites. Okay. So what are some common ways that we can actually come in contact with parasites? So drinking, wild waters. So for any of those that like to go hiking and drink out of, waterfalls and places that it could be contaminated water, that is a way that we can pick up parasites. We can also pick up parasites from public bathrooms. It is a common misconception that parasites are only in third world undeveloped countries. Parasites are everywhere, okay? So you can also be walking barefoot in an area with lots of livestock. That's a common way to pick up parasites. You can actually pick up parasites just, by sitting on a public toilet. You can pick up parasites by going to a restaurant and maybe the cook didn't wash their hands after they went to the bathroom. So going to places where, hygiene is not a top priority for those that are preparing your food. Okay, these are some common ways to pick up parasites. Now, about 12 years ago, I worked in an integrative medical office. And in that office, we actually tested everybody who came in the door. We did a stool sample and we tested everybody for parasites. And it blew my mind that 8 out of 10 people actually came back positive for parasites. And so that's what led me down this big journey of parasites. Why is nobody talking about it? And why is nobody actually doing something about it? So in this class, I hope to kind of unravel some of that information for you. Some common symptoms that are associated with parasite infestation. So brain fog is huge, low energy, all things gastrointestinal related. So bloating, gas, any of our itis type symptoms, colitis, continued on all the itis inflammatory symptoms. that ones may be experiencing. We also have chronic sinusitis. So a lot of times when people are actually purging from helminths, so the worms, roundworms specifically, they may actually cough up or sneeze out roundworms. It's very common for these type of parasites to actually migrate out of the small intestine via the blood highway into different parts of the body. Okay, so chronic sinusitis can be a sign of parasite infestations. Infertility. We also see vision issues, dental issues, anemia, and all things related to malabsorption. Mood disorders is also a big one too, depression and other, extreme mood disorders as well. Okay, headaches could also be an issue. So, and so why are why is why are so many people possibly infected with parasites? Well, it has to do a lot with our inner terrain. Okay, so when we have a healthy microbiome, our gut, healthy bacteria, healthy enzymatic activity, healthy cortisol regulation patterns, we see that we are more resistant to unwanted guests. So whether that's, fungal infections, Candida albicans, or if that's parasitic infections, or if that's bacterial infections, we see that when we have a healthy terrain, we are more resilient and resistant to unwanted guests. Well, if we take a look at, modernization, we have the SAD diet. So standard American diet, lots of processed foods right there is going to break down that healthy terrain. Okay. And then we also are exposed to glyphosates in our environment. These have a direct impact on our gut lining. So it disrupts it. And then a lot of people experience something known as leaky gut or, permeability in the intestinal lining. So unwanted guests and pathogens can actually get into our bloodstream and small intestine and wreak havoc on the body. We also, microplastics are everywhere. So these also damage our terrain as well, our gut microbiome. So this is a big reason why there are so many people that are experiencing inflammatory issues, possibly related to parasites or other type of unwanted guests. It's because of the unhealthy terrain that so many people are experiencing today. Okay, so when left unchecked, parasites, again, like I said, they're going to migrate from the small intestine a lot of times via the blood highway, and they can, take up residence in other parts of in other organs, other parts of the body. Okay. So, one of my biggest things is like, why is nobody talking about this? So I want to talk a little bit about the history of parasite treatment. And we know that, Hippocrates was actually, called the father of medicine. So around 400, 460 BC, we have some of our earliest texts, coming from Hippocrates' writings. And he would treat his patients, his community, with antiparasitics. So he actually wrote that he noticed that when somebody was out of balance, he would actually purge them. So they would use things like colon hydrotherapy or enemas and herbs like pomegranate root bark and hellebore, which you don't really see those used a lot in the herbal world anymore. These are more, I like to say, old world remedies. And he would also use things like garlic as well. And so he would do purging the body and then put the body back into a state of balance. And this was known as balancing the humors to Hippocrates. Okay, so now fast forward, we know that in nearly every culture around the world, all indigenous cultures, no matter where you come from, people did seasonal purging. And generally, this would be done in the spring or the fall. And you would, somebody in the family would prepare a vermifuge tonic. So a tonic made out of extremely bitter herbs that you would take a spoonful of for various days, and you would purge the body. And this, again, was done all over the world. And in many cultures, it actually still is practiced. Then we see, in the early or the late 1800s to the early 1900s, if the American Medical Association actually worked with many parasite tonics. Turpentine was actually part of the Merck manual in the early 1900s and was a reputable source of treating parasites. So you went to your physician or your local, doctor in your community, and they would possibly give you some turpentine. Merck, you can actually still look it up in the Merck handbook, the use of turpentine. Wilmington, North Carolina, in that time was actually the #1 exporter of turpentine. And turpentine comes from the resin of pine trees. Okay, and so then we have in 1910. 1910 was a turning point for medicine. Okay, in 1910 there was a report called the Flexner Report. So 1910 we have the Flexner Report. Now, this report was funded by the Rockefellers and the Carnegies. And what happened is that, pre 1910, so the late 1800s, in United States, you would have found herbal apothecaries and homeopaths and naturopaths and colon hydrotherapy and even sound therapy. These type of alternative, what we call now therapies, support places were actually all over the country. And so 1910, Rockefeller and the Carnegies paid a man named Henry Flexner, who was just a college professor. He had no background in the medical world. He was not a medical doctor. He was a college professor. And they paid this man, Henry Flexner, to create this report known as the Flexner Report. You can still pull this up online if you'd like and read it. It is very fascinating. But basically, what that report said is that all remedies, all medicine, basically, if it was not backed up by scientific rigor, then it was debunked. It had no value to it. Shortly after that, the Rockefellers actually became the #1 donator to pharmaceutical companies. And then we see up until 1910, for the next 6 years, basically all eclectic herb schools and many, homeopaths, chiropractics, natural healing modalities were actually shut down across the country. And so we see herbalism and other health, natural health modalities go underground, and many of them disappear altogether. So not only took about 6 years, and then we have from 1910 to about the 1940s, we have a huge rise in pharmaceutical companies. Those two big oil tycoons that funded the Flexner Report, the Rockefellers and Carnegie, they actually started funding all the medical schools across the country as well. So they're not only funding pharmaceutical companies, but they're also funding the medical schools. And then that's when that big famous quote that Rockefeller actually stated. He said, "If you want to control a nation, you control the medicine." Okay. So in the 1940s, of course, post World War II, we have a change. Penicillin becomes, a medicine, and it does. It saves lives. We have our first antibiotic. And then the whole medical society switches from germ theory, right? So germ theory states that we're only as healthy as our terrain, okay? And so germ theory backs up terrain theory. And now in the 1940s, with the launch of penicillin, we go into basically using antibiotics, and they become one of the #1 things used still to this day. Okay, so I'm an inquiring mind, and I like to know, well, why are these things not used anymore? So there's a little history if you're interested. Now, I believe that herbal medicine will always be people's medicine. Many of these herbs that I'm going to talk about are actually easy to grow in your garden, and they may be growing in your area. And you can definitely find them on our web store, wiseearthbotanicals.com. The link to that is in the show notes. So one of my favorite herbs is black walnut. Okay. Black walnut comes from a very large tree. It grows all over the southeast here. And now as herbalists, we harvest the green hulls in the last part of summer. And that's those green hulls that have a very, strong smell to them. And it's that eugenol and actually a little bit of iodine in those green hulls too that we make medicine with and have been for a very long time. These are some of your traditional vermifuge tonics. Now, a vermifuge is an herbal remedy that is used to kill parasites. Okay, vermifuge, that's what that word means. So black walnut is a classic vermifuge. It's great for, getting rid of many parasites in their larva and their adult stage. Okay, so we have our 3 stages here. We have our eggs of the parasites. We have our larva. And we have our adults. Okay, I'm going to come back to that. So black walnut does a real good job at clearing out the larvae and the adults of most protozoa and helminth type parasites. Okay, and it's those green hulls that most traditional herbalists are going to soak in alcohol while they're fresh. Okay, so black walnut. Next one, wormwood. This one is very easy to grow in your garden. Now I'm talking about Artemisia annua, and I'll put that in the show notes below. Artemisia annua, or wormwood, we harvest the aerial parts, so everything growing above ground. It is extremely bitter, and again, it helps to get rid of the larvae and the adults. Now, we have to thank one of the great physicians and herbalists of her time, that was Dr. Hilda Clark, who actually worked with 3 specific herbs known as black walnut, wormwood, and she used clove. Now, in the herbal world, we kind of call this the Holy Trinity, if you will, for a remedy that helps to kill parasites at all stages. So clove does a really good job at killing parasites in their egg stage. Okay, now I have talked to many different types of practitioners, and it is agreed upon by many people that clove may be one of the only natural things that actually kills parasites at their egg stage. Okay, so Dr. Hilda Clark actually came up with this formula: black walnut, wormwood, and clove. And you can check out the history of Dr. Hilda Clark. She actually worked with so many people in such a positive way of clearing out parasites using this formula here that she was actually chased out of the country, and I believe that she had to move to Mexico. Okay, so this is a powerful formula here. Now, I like to actually add a few other things to this formula, because parasites in generally, they like to hide in something called biofilm. So this is like a kind of a sticky matrix, if you will. And so if you think of a house, okay, and the parasite hides in here. Okay, parasites are inside the house, and the biofilm is like the roof of the house. So it's you get a lot more benefits if you can actually use an anti-biofilm or a biofilm disruptor to clean off that biofilm. And so these anti-parasitic herbs, these vermifuge herbs, can go in and clean up the parasites. Okay, so my favorite biofilm disruptor herb is an herb from the southern region. So in Costa Rica, part of my family is from Costa Rica. It grows all over the place there. You can also find it in other Central and South American countries. We work with it in our apothecary, in our parasite formula. It is called Mimosa pudica. It is also worked with in Ayurvedic traditions as well. And so Mimosa pudica does a great job at clearing off that biofilm. It's a biofilm disruptor, and many things hide in biofilm. So bacteria, there's some bacteria that like to hide in biofilm. There's many different types of fungi. A lot of times Candida albicans can hide in biofilm. So Mimosa pudica is a great biofilm disruptor. And then we also have the herb neem. So I'm going to put neem up here. Neem would be a traditional remedy used in a lot of Ayurvedic remedies. And now neem does come from India. And so it's great for internal purging of parasites, but I also find that neem works great when we put it in our homemade bug sprays and tick repellents. We want to stay away from DEET and some of those harmful neurotoxins in those store-bought things for summer repellents. But neem added with other essential oils and such is great at preventing ectoparasites. Neem is great for preventing ticks, and it's also great for warding off mosquitoes. Okay, so this is one of my go-to herbs for ectoparasites. And now, wasabi. So when you go get sushi, wasabi is usually given with your sushi. Now, wasabi is a great medicine for clearing out parasites. Okay, sushi is usually filled with parasites, especially if it's not prepared properly. And so there's, no mistake that many of these traditional cultures would give you something that's anti-parasitic to eat with a possible parasite-containing food, right? So we have neem, we have wasabi, and then one of my favorite kitchen remedies is garlic. Now, I love garlic. Garlic is a great anti-parasitic herb, but it's also fantastic for so many other things. It's great for getting rid of SIBO, which I talk about in some other episodes, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, or IMO, which is intestinal methane overgrowth. It's great at getting rid of those type of bacteria. It's great at killing candida funguses. It's kind of all around Girl Scout for the home apothecary. So garlic is amazing. And then before I finish up with you all today, I do want to, inspire you to do parasite cleansing. And so how and when do you do parasite cleansing? So it is actually thought that during the full moon or around the full moon, we find that parasites are most active. Okay, so they're heavily reproducing possibly. That's why a lot of times around the full moon, people may experience, tiredness, lethargy, mood swings, irritability. Okay, so it could possibly because there are foreign invaders that are more active around a full moon. So most natural health practitioners will actually advise their clients to do parasite cleansing on or around the full moon. So I generally say 5 to 7 days around a full moon. Okay, and we need to take care of our terrain all the time, and especially while we're cleansing. But really, terrain, walking in a pro-metabolic or a metabolic forward way of eating is just essential for all things health related. However, when we are cleansing, it is essential to avoid a few things. So we want to stay away from the SAD diet, the standard American diet. Our main focus is on protein, veggies, healthy fat, and no sugar, okay? And lots of fermented foods, okay? So this type of diet, so I'm going to put that down here because it's really a lifestyle diet. So protein, fat, veggies, and fermented foods. Now, when we're cleansing, I definitely don't advise people to fast for long periods of time. Remember, if you're dealing with parasite infestations, parasites are the first ones to eat. So most of the time, I find that people are extremely deficient in minerals and vitamins because parasites have been feeding on them. So 5 to 7 days, we want to take our anti-parasitic vermifuge tonic. So vermifuge, we're going to do that 3 times a day. Okay. And you're eating. I'm telling people do not fast for long periods of time. Of course, we do a nightly 12 to 14 hours of fast from the time we go to bed or eat dinner till we get up in the morning. That's great. That's a great way to reset cortisol and support healthy cortisol levels. But generally, we're not doing water fast or anything while we're parasite cleansing. So vermifuge 3 times a day. You're going to start your morning with a some type of mineral replenishment, a mineral tonic. You can find them in the apothecary. I'll put some notes down below. And so a mineral replenishing, so something to enhance the mineral uptake, okay? Because most people dealing with parasites are extremely deficient. So minerals, AM, okay? And digestive bitters. You want to take digestive bitters before each meal. So if you eat twice a day, you're taking them twice a day. If you eat 3 times a day, you're taking them 3 times a day. So before meals. This is going to signal to your digestive receptors to release gastric acid and some other essential enzymes to help break down and assimilate the nutrients from your food and help with gas and bloating, and basically help the whole digestive process, right? Digestive bitters really are for everybody. And then at night before we go to bed, I highly suggest a liver support. So we know that our liver detoxes at night while we're sleeping. That's why a lot of times people will wake up between 3 and 5 o'clock in the morning. It's because their liver is dumping toxins and it wakes you up, okay? So a liver support is also essential when we're doing some type of parasite cleanse for those 5 to 7 days. And then I also will suggest a fiber. Okay, once a day, generally, before you eat your bigger meal, with a full glass of water to so you don't just get bloated. So it actually, fiber will help to scrape kind of gently the inside of your intestinal wall to help get the parasites out, right? So fiber is great because when you're cleansing, you need to make sure that you're actually going to the bathroom 1 to 2 times a day, preferably 2 times a day, but at least once a day. Good, healthy bowel movements. Okay, fiber, 1 time daily. Okay, and then I also recommend chlorella or spirulina or some kind of blue-green algae tablets or powder. So blue-green algae. Okay, 1 to 2 times daily. And the reason being is because this is one of our strongest antioxidants. And when parasites basically release their hold inside of your body, well, they can help. They can leave endotoxins behind, and basically the blue-green algae kind of helps to come in and sweep up the endotoxins, and it can really help mitigate many of the detox symptoms that people may experience when they're doing a parasite cleanse. It can help with the brain fog, it can help with the low energy levels. So blue-green algae 1 to 2 times a day. Drink plenty of water, so half your body weight in ounces. You can always put your mineral drops in there as well. And we want to enhance our terrain. So for 5 to 7 days around the full moon, you're doing a formula like this. You can find a link in my show notes for more information and where to purchase this at. And then, so you do that for 1 full moon, then you wait another month and you do it the next full moon. Same thing. You can do this 2 to 3 full moons in a row because, again, we want to get rid of not only the eggs, the larvae, but the adults. So we're targeting all 3 phases of the parasite's life cycle by doing it multiple full moons or multiple months in a row. I hope that you've enjoyed this class. It's one of my favorite topics. If you want to learn more about how to work with me or the amazing formulas that I make with Wise Earth Botanical, I'm going to leave that in the show notes below, and you can jump over to my website, wiseearthbotanicals.com. Thanks again, and have a healthy day.